I'm Jimmy Austin, and I am from Sheffield. Lived here all but 1 year of my life. Came all the way from Florence. My mom and daddy from out in the county, and came to Sheffield when I was a year old. And I ended up spending my entire career teaching kids here in Sheffield. And the last 8.5 years I was a counselor at the high school. And so I got appointed to the Historic Sheffield Commission. In my very first meeting, they were looking for someone to lead a tour. It was February, and April had just been designated walking tour month. And one of my students' mamas was sitting on that board and said, "We don't have to look any further. There's our tour leader right there." Only problem was I could probably do a tour of Paris or London or Tokyo or somewhere, but I didn't know much about Sheffield. But anyway, I had to do a lot of research real quick, a lot of study. And for the first 3 or 4 years, I just did North Montgomery Avenue and did the residential areas. And then I got to thinking I need to do downtown. Being raised here, and if you stop and think about it, if you were raised in a locale that you spent your entire childhood growing up, how much did you really just stop and take advantage of all you were learning and knowing and put it back up here where you could recall it sometime? And so I had to get in the library and start researching what was where back in the day. And so basically today's tour is going to be what used to be there, what used to be at this vacant lot right here. And we're going to start with this structure right here. Sheffield was founded in 1885, so keep that date in mind. In 1885, after the Civil War, some deep pocket investors decided it was time to rebuild the South, especially in North Alabama. And some folks came from Montgomery, specifically Montgomery, who knew people in Charleston and Memphis and Savannah and other places like that. And those guys came to Sheffield to build a town that was different from Tuscumbia, which was a rural town at the time. In 1820, when it was founded, it was going to be different from Florence, which was a rural town founded in 1818. And so Sheffield not being founded until 1885 was going to be different from both towns. And I would say even today it's a little bit different from both towns, but just because of the beginning of this city. The difference was this was going to be a steel foundry town, not agricultural. Even though right where we're standing, all the way from probably about where the railroad track is and all the way to the river was under cultivation. All this was cropland. But the thing that drew the investors here was the fact that the river was so prevalent, that was important and has been for thousands of years, as you can imagine. But they also found that there were deposits of coal and iron ore just south of here. And the guys that were instrumental in wanting to start the steel industry knew everything they needed as far as natural resources were here. And so in 1883 there had been a land sale, and about 500 different lots across this area of 2,600 acres were sold off. And the thing that was different about Sheffield is when Florence and Tuscumbia were founded, they grew very, very slowly as people moved into this area. And you remember, when Florence was founded in 1818, Alabama was still a year away from being a state. And when Tuscumbia was founded in 1819, or 1820, I'll get it right in a minute, 1820, Alabama had just become a state for a year. And this was basically Indian territory, and not many people came to Tuscumbia, and not many people came to Florence. But when Sheffield was founded as a new town, and especially an industrial town, people flooded into here. And it wasn't farmers. It was people that had left big cities. And so they wanted the same kind of accommodations right away. That's why you see still today, if you want to come on my tour next week as we walk up to the standpipe and back, there are 12 houses on this street that date to 1880 or 1890 today. And not small houses, I'm talking big houses like this one right over here. And the same thing went for the churches, same thing went for the city hall. And that's why I give you all that preview to the city hall. But it wasn't this city hall. That's what's strange. They started building the city hall on this location right away, right after the 1885 founding. 1886, they started laying a foundation for City Hall. It's going to be a big grand structure. Work had just started. 1890 came. There was a nationwide financial crunch, and money was hard to get, and the city was not unlike individuals. And all of a sudden, what had been started on this hill right here stopped, came to a screeching halt. And for over 20 years, nothing happened on this hill. Did y'all get that? Over 20 years, this city hall was left started and stopped. In fact,
hi, this is Jordan Collier, host of Historical Insights on Spotify, and you're watching North Alabama Local History.
I've got a picture, and it's not a real good picture. Y'all will have to come close. But this is what this structure looked like around 1895 to 1900, and it wasn't until 1926 that this building was built. What happened is this building here, if you can see close, doesn't even resemble this building. It was going to be round with turrets and all kind of strange looking architecture. And so after sitting vacant for over 20 years, they came in and knocked down the superstructure. The basement stayed. And the basement that's up here now is the basement that was laid in 1880s, 1890s. But the upper structure was knocked down, and this building was put up and completed in 1926, 1927, thereabouts. And has been City Hall and the basis for city government ever since. Now, we're not going to go on the street where City Hall was located, but as we go down Montgomery Avenue, you'll be able to see, and I'll point out where City Hall actually was. In the meantime, when all this was sitting vacant, they were located up above where the fire department was, and I'll point that building out as we walk down the street. So, we'll start moving south. If you have questions, please be sure to ask. And I do have pictures of what was there that are no longer there to let you see what it looked like back in the day, so to speak. So let's just move down to this corner.